These are from the same game. Wanted Dead is a tonally unsure piece of work. I'm almost obliged to call it weird even though that word might not fit entirely correct, as Wanted Dead is also very sincere about itself. It's extremely serious, despite all the wacky stuff within it. Wanted Dead is a game that somehow manages to mix in-engine cutscenes with fully realised anime cutscenes and have it work perfectly. It's a game that has Kojima levels of cutscenes between missions, but somehow, despite the hollow characters and extremely unclear plot, I was weirdly invested. Wanted Dead is a weird game. In Wanted Dead, we play as Hannah Stone, a death row inmate turned suicide squad member for the Hong Kong Police Department. It's never really explained what she did that put her on death row, but it must have been bad. She's joined by a small but endearing cast of characters that also have next to no backstory. It's a game that presents karaoke minutes after our protagonist hears devastating news. It's the first time in the game that we've seen her show anything other than a vague hint of anger, and instead of digging deep into what the news is or why it made it feel that way, the game just jumps to a performance of 99 Luftballons. And much like the Yakuza minigame that obviously inspired this, you press a button and you get graded on your timing, but every time you hit a note, a clapping sound plays. But it's so deceptively out of time with the music with your own internal rhythm that it makes you miss the notes. Then the camera finally cuts back to show you and your squad mates, and everyone's losing their shit over this. It's endearing. Strange, but endearing. And then when you unlock the karaoke minigame, it's infinitely replayable. But the only song you can play is 99 Luftballons. And I wish I had a joke here. But that's it, isn't it? The game is the joke. I'd kind of assumed that all the weird animations, the strange out of syncness, was because there was other songs, that it was like a budget and scope thing, that they made it work well enough that all the songs worked. But no, the only song is 99 Luftballons. All those animations, all that work and all that setup was so that you could do karaoke to 99 Luftballons. Wanted Dead is a strange game, and I wish I had answers. But I don't. There's no possible explanation as to why so much dev time just went into this. I mean, maybe if this was the only instance of this, I could find something. But this is also a game that has a ramen eating minigame. And this minigame has the game's only bit where we have a narrator.
First, you observe the bowl. Appreciate it.
According to the record of the Yokohama Ramen Museum, ramen originated in China and made its way to Japan in 1859. We know that the first specialized ramen shop opened in Yokohama in 1910. Tonkatsu, the pork bone, is something Lieutenant Hannah Stone was really looking forward to, and so did Sergeant Arnold Herzog.
Eat the pork.
No. Just touch it. What's important here is to apologize to the pork by saying, see you soon.
Oh, shut the fuck up, Herzog.
Oh, at least slurp the soup.
Shut the fuck up, Herzog.
Sometimes I feel that you hate joy. Good bowl of soup is better than sex, Stone.
You're just doing it wrong. What's the deal with you and this goddamn soup?
Wanted Dead is a strange game. It's filled with strange decisions, strange dialogue, strange music, strange plot beats, strange level design, and none of it's bad. It's just strange. I mean, the loading screen is a recreation of that one GIF. And again, there's no reason for this. It just is. This isn't a game that you prescribe meaning to. And I know that sounds douchey or artsy for the sake of being artsy. But I'm being honest here. I can't assign meaning to this game because it is just Wanted Dead. But what is Wanted Dead? It's an action game set in a neo-future Hong Kong, and it should have released on the Xbox 360. That's the vibe that I think Wanted Dead is going for. I mean, come on, it even has the LED sci-fi power armor that was so popular during those years, a plot vaguely about transhumanism, and it's made exclusively of repetitive urban spaces like big open rooms and alleyways. There's even some RPG-light elements as well. A simple skill tree that basically boils down to 2 or 3 useful upgrades and percentile increases for damage and health. It even has weapon customization, that is basically, do you want more damage or more recoil control? And considering the game has extremely strong auto aim, I know which one I'm going for. Wanted Dead is a love letter, or maybe even a homage to the 7th generation. And that makes it very engaging to me. I love that decade. I love that stretch of time between 2005 and 2015. Gaming was arguably the strongest it ever was, at least for creativity and for variety. If you like shooters, there was no end in sight for the amount of games. RPGs were the same. Puzzles and racing games were a similar deal as well. I can only imagine how nostalgic a team of developers would feel for that era. Budgets were modest, but the world was their oyster. You didn't have to sell 10 million copies just to break even. It was okay to get a 6 out of 10. It wasn't the end of the world. And that's kind of the thinking that permeates Wanted Dead the most. It's okay. It's nothing special. The combat's fine, it's quick and fun, but mechanically it's pretty average. Gunplay is very, very simple. As is the swordplay, as it's only limited to a handful of combos that all do the exact same thing. But then the execution takedowns are fun to watch. But that's really it. I've spent a lot talking about a game that is at best okay and at worst very bad. But I haven't talked about what actually makes the game interesting from a kind of review standpoint. It's the cutscenes, man. They're something else. They switch between poorly acted, poorly made messes to legitimately well-made scenes. The biggest standout by far is the third level of the game that has you infiltrating a nightclub for reasons entirely unclear. I think it was something to do with a hostage or something. As the camera shifts through the opening door, all of a sudden we're transported into a 2D animation. It's anime style, obviously, but it's gorgeous. So well done. The club is roaring maniac. It feels like a completely different game, a completely different story. Our duo move through the crowd of dancers until something makes them stop, the music cuts, and we watch Hannah Stone relive a past life. A happier one. Until our partner snaps her out of it just in time for the chorus. It's one of 3 scenes in the game that aren't played for laughs. It's deadly serious about itself, whatever itself is, and I really like it. It's so different from the rest of the game that it takes you by complete and utter surprise, and I'll be honest, ever since I played this game a few months back, this is one of the things that just keeps popping up in my brain. I cannot forget this scene, and I don't know why. Because even back then, I spent the next 4 or so hours of the game's runtime just thinking about it. It elevated the game in my head but beyond this imitation of games from a decade ago to something worth talking about. And look, it's not entirely fair to say that the game only has 3 of these moments. I could write paragraphs about how the cutscenes between missions are actually incredibly touching. Despite the lack of characterization beyond this character is a womanizer, this guy's shy, this guy's deaf, and this woman's a nerd. Wanted Dead, as I keep saying, is a weird game full of weird decisions. It's hard to even really call it a story, the connective tissue's barely there. It's really just a bunch of scenes with vague connections to a wider plot that never really gets explained. Because as far as I could glean, the plot's this, roughly. Hannah Stone is a death row prisoner who is recruited by the Hong Kong Police Department as hired muscle to bulk up their dwindling numbers. A cybernetics company that specialises in augmentation and the creation of androids acts as a sort of like PMC for Hong Kong. Stone's squad, codenamed Zombie, is sent to investigate a break-in at this company's headquarters where they learn or get forced into a political plot to overthrow the police and the government, I think. But where does all this anime stuff slot into? Well, that's all from Stone's life before she got incarcerated and put into death row. She was a normal mother. Her kid got sick, she took a job. Mind you, you learn this from the game's post-credit sequence, so you will be in the dark for the game's entire runtime. It seems to me that Stone quite literally signs her life away. This company mind controls her into doing a job for them, and her kid's medical bills get covered as a result. It's unclear what the job was, but it was bad enough to end up on death row. An in-game file does hint at war crimes. What's even stranger is that Stone has an entire backstory that quite literally doesn't connect at all to the main plot. This gets shown off frequently, but is never mentioned in gameplay nor in the main storyline, until the very last cutscene. happening less than a minute after you fight a discount Metal Gear Solid Raiden. Stone sits alone in an old hotel room. She dials an orphanage and is reprimanded by a woman on the other end. She's told she can't call her anymore, that they appreciate her donations. Then, all of a sudden, the young boy picks up. It's Stone's son, and he's happy to talk to her.
Hannah, I thought I'd never hear you again.
But here I am.
There's so many things going on right now. Oh, there's a new girl in our class. I think she likes me.
What's her name?
Her name's Olga. She's kind of sweet. I also failed a math test last week, but it's okay. I don't bother much about it. Ooh, I joined the football team. The uniform is so bitchin'. We're being sponsored by Continental Standards. You won't believe the kicks they bought us. There's so much going on. Well, when will you drop by, huh?
I don't know, Bruiser. Whenever I can.
All right. You want to speak to Margaret?
No, I'll be going. Look after Olga for me, okay?
Wanted Dead is a weird game with strange decisions. This cutscene is the only one in the whole game that I would call good. But everything you learn here is new information on your first playthrough. You know that she has a kid, but his fate is left up for question. Plus, if she had her memory wiped, how could she remember him enough to call the orphanage up frequently enough to be told off for calling? You know, like, is there files? I don't know. There's a lot of questions, but this scene was purposeful. It exists as a product of time and effort. Someone made this. So I can't dismiss it as a random bit of plot at the end of an otherwise eventless game. I just can't. There's something to Wanted Dead's story that is evocative. I mean, come on, the nightclub scene and now this. Wanted Dead has scenes that moved me, and that's somehow being in the same game as 99 Luftballons karaoke. Yet, that doesn't take away from this. In fact, this game is full of that stuff. There's a neon-lit arcade, a 50s diner, our main antagonist having this strange haircut and facial hair combo. None of it is there to serve the narrative or the gameplay. It's just there because the developers thought it looked cool, and that's really it. This isn't a game that's so steeped in its own mythos, or a game that takes itself 100% seriously. Or maybe it is, but just not in the way that we're normally exposed to it. Back in my Watch Dogs Legion video, I had this section dedicated to the last bit of the DLC, where we had all this strange level design pop up, like a carbon copy of PT's hallway or a jumping puzzle. I said something along the lines of it being endearing because it felt like the only part of the game that wasn't decided by a board meeting. It felt human because it has to be. There's no other explanation for it. And Wanted Dead feels human too. Wanted Dead without all of its weirdness would be an infinitely inferior product. It would be more generic in a sea of games that these days all look the same. Its 50s diner and its weird 99 Luftballon sing-along are weirdly enough some of the standout sections of Wanted Dead. They are the point of difference that makes someone buy this. And that's awesome. Wanted Dead feels like a game from a previous decade because it was made like one. It wasn't built by boardroom executives looking at a feature set planned to meet the quarterly target. It was built by a team that wanted to make something. This is the only explanation for its weirdness, for its cutscenes that have no narrative reason to exist. A 90-second long cutscene of Hannah Stone riding an elevator and unloading her pistol before heading home. Or this cutscene of her taking a shower and revealing this back tattoo that is only visible in this one shot. All this for a game where the actual gameplay looks like this, and yet I can't even lie to you and say that there's a disconnect, because there's not. I don't know if it's me or if this game is seriously that good at merging the two, but they feel completely in sync. Going from shooting up a boss to 99 Luftballons feels completely fine. I don't question it. I don't know why. Wanted Dead simply isn't concerned with what you think. It's just doing its own thing. It's just sending 99 Luftballons whilst its friends watch on. Wanted Dead is a weird game. It is a game that is hard to write about, as Wanted Dead itself isn't anything special. It's a wacky hack and slash with disconnected writing and cookie cutter visuals. But what Wanted Dead represents is far bigger than the sum of its parts. It represents a bygone age of gaming. It represents a time when you could pitch a game to an investor and just get it made. A time before 8-year dev cycles when you could just make a game because you thought it would be cool. And I know that for every generic Ubisoft open world nightmare or Call of Duty or Fortnite, there are people on these teams that care about what they do, who have poured blood, sweat and tears into these games, into these products. I simply cannot look at contemporary games like I did when I was younger. I know how they get made now. I know what decides what gets made. I know that every time a new game enters production, a boardroom meeting happens to ensure the team can turn a profit upon release. I know what features are needed to ensure players pick up the game. How can they turn a game into an ongoing money printer? What live events can we want? What microtransactions can we get away with? This is the questions now that permeate any game. You have to ask them because games have to be a service now. They cannot just exist as themselves within themselves. There's no way that Wanted Dead would get approved by a board of directors. Where's the money in a 99 Luftballon karaoke minigame? Where's the money in a truly heartfelt post-credit sequence for a game that is never getting a sequel or a DLC or an expansion? In fact, there's no money in making a game like Wanted Dead. There's not much in it unless you're just here to make a game that hopefully someone enjoys out there. Wanted Dead won't get remembered. Not by the general public, not by die-hard gamers. It won't be remembered in a decade. It'll be lost like so many other games in a sea of generic slop. But I'll remember it. I'll remember it every time I hear 99 Luftballons. And I think that's enough.